Welcome to Mastering Google Ads. As you may very well know, my name is Aaron Young, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you inside of this course. In this first module and the very first lesson of this course, we're really going to be diving into the question of what is Google Ads. What the goal of this lesson is to just give you a very broad overview, so very broad understanding of the core principles of how Google Ads work. Now, if you are semi-experienced in Google Ads, so you've been doing Google Ads for 2 or 3 years or even longer, you may be okay to skip this lesson. But having said that, I'd still recommend that you do go through this lesson because it just gives you a refresher and a reminder of the core aspects of Google Ads. For those of you who are at the very start of your Google Ads journey, this is going to be an essential lesson which will really give you the core building blocks that you will need as we move to the more advanced parts of Google Ads later throughout this course. So with all of that said, let's get straight into this first lesson of going through what is Google Ads. To put it simply, Google Ads is paid advertising in which you pay to have your ads for your product or service appear when someone completes a Google search on their computer, phone, or tablet. And it also allows you to select certain audiences or demographic groupings of people to see your ads on either YouTube, Gmail, or other websites. Now, I'm not going to be breaking down all of this because as we go through this lesson and as we go through the rest of this course, all of these terms will start to make a lot more sense for you. And in most cases, Google Ads is what we call PPC or pay-per-click advertising, in which you only pay when a user actually clicks on your ad. Now, the reason for why I say that in most cases is because when you do move to some different YouTube or display where you're seeing your image-based ads on Gmail or other websites, you can do a bidding, which is all about impressions, so people that are viewing your ads. But for most people, this is the main difference between Google Ads and more of your traditional types of advertising like TV or radio, magazines or billboards, in that you only pay when someone clicks on your ad. And for me, that's part of the reason for why I love Google Ads, is because you're only paying when someone actually interacts with your ads. So what I want to just do right now is really we just want to refine and talk about the difference between Google search ads and Google organic search, so SEO. And obviously very, very clear and upfront that in this course, we're only going through Google Ads, so not the SEO side of it, but I do want to show you how it looks across the different networks. So how a search ad looks, how a shopping ad looks, and how some of the video and image-based ads look. Google Ads appear at the top of the page and they appear above any organic or unpaid search listings. And let me just show you what I mean by that. So generally when you see it from here, you'll see your paid ads are at the top here and your organic listing is actually down the bottom. So it's an important aspect as to why it is important to have Google Ads running. Even if you've got the #1 listing, you'll see that your ads will appear above any organic listings. And that's not only on the Google search network, because when it comes to Google shopping ads, they also appear at the top of the page above any unpaid search listings. So let me just break this one down for you so you can see through here. This is your shopping ads in through this section, and this here is your organic ads. So even from here with the shopping feed, you can actually see that it's the Google shopping ads, then the Google search ads appear above the Google organic shopping feed listing ads. And then as well, I just want to show you how your Google Ads appear on YouTube and display. And this is when you're showing image or video based ads. And these are the ads that appear within the results or on different websites. So this is on YouTube. You may recognize this guy in here. And then this is how your ads appear on the display network. You can see this ad in through here. So you can see from here on YouTube, it'll show the ads in amongst the search listings. So the organic listings, you can see from here, we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, but the ads are appearing inside of the listings on YouTube. And then with your paid ads, they appear on different websites. So they're the image-based ads. All right, now let's talk about where your ads can actually show. So your Google Ads can appear on a whole range of networks, including search. So that's what we just spoke about. That's the one that most people would understand. When you complete a Google search, you'll then see those ads at the top of your page. They can also appear on the display network. Now, your display ads are ads that appear on different websites. Now, if you've ever gone to a website and then you just go around and do your general searching of the internet, you might be checking the sports results or the weather, whatever you're checking, whatever you're into on the internet, and you see that company's ads follow you around, that is the display network. Your ads can also appear on YouTube, which I showed you on the screen before. Then in Gmail, so inside of the Gmail app experience, you can also see ads appear there. And then also as well on Google Maps. If you've ever opened up Google Maps and you see some listings at the top, so these are all of the areas where your ads can appear. So now we know all the places that your ads can appear. Now I want to highlight the different targeting options for Google Ads. And when I talk about the targeting options, I really want you to think about these are the different levers that you have in order to adjust and improve the performance of Google Ads. And one thing you'll find very, very clear in this course, I talk a lot about levers. And what I mean by that is they're the different opportunities that we have to control Google Ads. You could also explain it like different dials, the way that you tune things. And this is the way that I think about Google Ads, and the way that I've always been able to see success with Google Ads is really thinking about like this: what are the different options that I have to optimize that can change the performance of my account? So the targeting options for Google Ads are not only by your keywords. Now, keywords are a very important part of the Google Ads experience and seeing success with Google Ads, but it's important to know it's not just about keywords. You can also target your ads by location, so where someone lives, by their language, by different audiences and different demographics. We're going to talk very soon about audiences and demographics and all the data that Google has on you. But you can also target it by the time of the day, then the day of the week. And this is really, really powerful if you're a service-based business and you want to generate some phone calls. You can say that we only want these ads to run from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock at night, or different days of the week. You can also target your ads by devices. So whether you only want your ads to go to a mobile, or whether you want your ads to go to desktop only. And there's some real test cases, which we will talk about this later in the course. Is, let's say, for example, you're an e-commerce brand and you're wanting to drive extra sales through your mobile app, you can run a mobile only campaign. And then also by your placements and customer lists. Your placements are where your ads actually appear. So think of your placements like whether it's appearing on a website or whether it's on YouTube. You can actually get the lists of YouTube channels where your ads appear, and you can also get the lists of websites where your ads appear. Customer lists, think of customer lists like your audiences, which we're going to explain very, very soon. But the customer lists are where you take your actual offline business data, so it could be your customers, and you actually upload that into Google Ads so that you can retarget them. Now, when we spoke before about the different audiences, sometimes for some people it's a bit of a scary exercise, but do you know the information that Google has about you? So if you go to this website up here, myadcenter.google.com, it actually shows you the audiences that Google has assigned to you. So you can see for me what you've got through here. This is my profile. And it's got some different hotels and resorts, some different fitness options, taxi services, gardening, vacation rentals. Now, for all of this, let me explain. We have got some holidays coming up, so that's why you can see that I'm part of a lot of holiday-based audiences. We've also been doing some updates to our own backyard and pool area. So what's happening from here is Google is looking at your previous search data, at your website behavior, what you've searched, what websites you're looking at, and it puts this together. And then what this allows us to do as advertisers is it allows us to add in some different audience targeting. So we're taking it beyond not just someone who's searching a certain keyword, we can put extra layers of information on it. And that's the one thing that I really want you to understand with Google Ads is it's not just about keyword targeting. Keyword targeting is highly important in Google Ads, but it's also about you can not only go for keyword targeting, you can also go for keyword targeting. So someone who's searching your targeted keyword who is also interested in fitness or who is also interested in vacation rentals. So you can see here, you can really build a marketing persona or target your ideal customer inside of Google Ads campaigns. All right, so now that we've sort of laid out the basic principles of the different targeting options you've got for Google Ads and how it goes beyond just keyword targeting, now I want to just take you through some learning on how does Google decide which ad to show. So historically and still now, Google Ads was based on an auction which was focused on keywords. So when you searched a keyword, you would see a selection of ads from businesses who are bidding on the same keyword. So it would work like this, that let's just say you're bidding on swimming lessons for kids. You'd have all the different businesses who wanted to target on that term. It would go into an auction and then Google would spit out these results. And this is all happening really, really quickly. And what happens is that Google decides which ads are shown and in what order by assigning an ad rank to each ad. The great thing about the Google Ads auction is that it's not solely based on price. I think all of us know how an auction works, and if you're to go to an auction to buy a house, it purely comes down to who's willing to pay the most. They win that auction. Whereas with the Google Ads auction, it is slightly different. Money is definitely a factor, and the amount that you're willing to pay for that auction to win that auction is a factor, but it's not the only factor. And the way that Google does this is it assigns an ad rank. Now, ad rank is a set of values used to determine, firstly, if your ads are eligible to show. So are they relevant? And if they are eligible, what ad rank is compared to other advertisers. So what it's looking at firstly here is you'll see a really common theme when it comes to Google Ads auctions is that it's all about relevance. Ultimately, what Google is designed to do and what Google wants to achieve with its ads platform is it wants to show the most relevant ads, taking people to the most relevant landing pages from their initial search. So if you can always be thinking about that it's all about relevance, you're going to be a long way down the journey to seeing success with Google Ads. So the way to think about it is that the higher your ad rank, the higher the ad position. So using that example of the auction, it is the highest bidder that wins, but it's not about price only. It's also about these ad rank factors. So let's now talk about the factors that determine these ad ranks because it's really, really important to know. So firstly, your bid. So the maximum amount you're willing to pay per click, which can be set either manually or automatically by an automated bidding strategy, such as maximize clicks or maximize conversions. Now, I don't want to muddy the water too much at the moment. That's why I have put that little asterisk there because we're going to discuss automated strategies later down the course. But right now, I just want you to conceptually think about your bid is one of the factors that determine your ad rank is how much you're willing to pay per click. The second thing is the quality of your ads and landing page. And this is also known as your quality score. Remembering what I said before, it's Google's goal being to match the most relevant ads and relevant landing pages to the user's initial search. Then there's also what Google calls its current ad rank thresholds. And what these are the minimum standards that an ad must achieve in order to be shown in the auction. As these are different per auction, the goal here is to focus on creating targeted ads and landing pages for the relevant keywords. Now, the important part to think about this with your ad rank thresholds is that it is different for every industry and different for every business because this is a live auction. So it's more about you putting together the best ad rank, so the minimum standards for your ad versus your competitors' ads, and the competitors being other people who are bidding on the same search terms. The next factor is the competitiveness of the auction, and this is why CPCs are higher or lower compared to different search keywords. As a general rule, and a very general rule, more competition means higher CPCs. Remember, it is an auction, so the more people that are bidding for the same search themes, the higher the CPC will be. The context of the user's search. Now, this is one thing that is changing rapidly inside of Google Ads. Google now also takes into account factors such as the relevant search terms by the user, their location and demographics, recent ads they've interacted with, and other user signals and attributes. Now, I wish that I could really break down what those other user signals and attributes are, but really that's all that Google gives us. It doesn't give us a lot of information, but I want to go to the next point and then I'll explain this further because the next point is then the expected impact of your ad assets and other ad formats. So you have the option to include ad assets such as phone numbers or links to other parts of your website. And if Google believes that these assets will increase the chance of a click, you are likely to get a higher ad rank. Some things that I want you to unpack there. This is a big factor for Google. If Google believes that these assets will increase the chance for a click. One thing that you always need to remember with Google Ads is that Google only gets paid when someone clicks on your ad. So what you want to do with your ad campaigns, and whenever you're creating any type of campaign or any type of ad, you always want to be thinking, how can I improve the chances of someone clicking on my ad? Because if you can do that, it is then in Google's best interest to show your ad over your competitors' ads. And for success, the way that I've always thought about Google Ads is how can I give Google what it wants so that I can get what I want, which is a click and more people going through to my website. Historically, when it came to the ad rank, it just used to be about your bid and some other metrics like your click-through ratio. But now, as Google is moving more and more to some automated learning and is picking up more web behavior, this is where it's really looking at. It's looking at predicting what is the impact going to be if they show your ad versus a competitor's ad. While this all may sound very confusing, remember the main objective of Google is this, and this is what I really want you to understand. It's really easy to get confused with all of this. I know I'm still learning things about Google every day, and I've been in Google now for over 15 years. But if you can think of this as your driving principle whenever you're creating a Google Ads campaign or you're creating an individual ad, the main objective for Google is to do this. They want to show the most relevant ads that are advertising the most relevant landing pages to the user's initial search. So what you want to do, you want to do it in reverse. What the user searches, you want to make sure that you've got a relevant landing page to the initial search, because that's what Google wants to match up. They want to match up the user's initial search to the best landing page. The way they do that is by the most relevant ads. So what I want you to always be thinking about is that if you can have relevant ads and relevant landing pages matched to highly targeted keyword searches, you're going to see success with Google Ads. I said this before. The good news in Google Ads is that the highest bid does not always win. Remembering, it's not just about who's willing to pay the most money. It's because Google uses all the factors to calculate an ad rank to determine the number one winning position. So it's all of these things. So your bid, your ad and page quality, the ad rank thresholds, the auction competitiveness, the context of the user search, and the estimated impact of the ad assets, that equals your ad rank. Now, the reason why Google uses this formula is because their goal is to match highly relevant ads and websites to the user's search query. Now, the one thing I want to say on that as well is that the reason for why Google does this is because they know that if they continue to serve up low quality ads, sending people to low quality websites, it's going to impact their business bottom line. So don't for one second think that Google is being noble in doing this. The reason they're doing it is for money, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just as the advertiser, we need to be aware that ultimately Google gets paid when someone clicks on the ad. So they want to make sure that when someone clicks on the ad, they get a good experience. The user gets a good experience. So when you're creating ads for your business or for your clients' businesses, what I want you to always think about is that previous page that we spoke about before. Most relevant ad to the most relevant landing pages to the user's initial search. And if you're keeping that as your core focus, you will always have a really good ad rank. So now let's just talk about why Google Ads. We've gone through the core principle of how you can target your ads and how Google selects the auction. Now I want to talk about why Google Ads. And for me, this is really why I love Google Ads. And the first reason is that you can control your costs. The thing I love about this is that you can set your daily budget so you can control the maximum that is spent each day and each month. Plus, remember, you only pay when someone clicks on your ad. And the reason for why I really love this is because you can use Google Ads to get a real proof of concept around a different product or around a different advertising campaign. And you can do a test. And if you go, look, ultimately we want to be spending $1,000 a day on this campaign, but we want to first make sure that it's working. You can start off with a smaller budget of say $100 a day. And then when you know that that concept works, that's when you can then increase the spend. That's why I love Google Ads, is that you can control your costs and then you can do some tests to really justify the investment. Second thing is you can continually review and improve your campaign. Unlike many other forms of advertising, Google Ads allows you to get live data and results, so you can make constant changes and improvements. So think about a billboard, the billboard on the side of the road. Now, I'm not saying that that isn't effective. It's just you don't have 100% clear data. Whereas with Google Ads, because you can track data by the click, you're seeing how many clicks you got versus how many conversions you got. So you can review that data and continue to add optimizations so that you can improve your results. The next thing is that it's easy to measure your success and calculate your ROI. So in Google Ads, it's easier to track who calls or who bought your product from a Google ad. And this makes it easy to calculate your ROI, so your return on investment from every dollar spent. So let me give you an example. Let's just say from when you started your Google Ads campaign, you got an extra $1,000 in revenue, and this came from $100 in ad spend. So for $1,000 of revenue, that came from $100 ad spend, you'd have an ROI of 10x. So for every dollar you spent, you got $10 back. So that's another reason why I really love Google Ads, is that you can easily measure that ratio so you know how successful your Google Ads campaigns are being. The other thing I love about Google Ads is you can generate instant exposure and conversions for your business. And I've seen this in different campaigns that we've run. We've sometimes started a campaign, a brand new campaign for a new business in the morning, and they were getting phone calls that afternoon. That's how quick you can see results with Google Ads. And the question I always ask for people, because sometimes people are asking, should we do SEO or should we do Google Ads? Now, I do believe that you need to do both, but the way that I respond is, does your business need a fire hose or a dripping tap? If you had to fill a pool, would you prefer to use a fire hose or a dripping tap? Both will do the job, but one is a lot faster. And for me, that's the difference between paid advertising with Google Ads and like an SEO strategy. I'm not saying that SEO doesn't work, but it's very much more of a long-term investment. Whereas with Google Ads, if you can get Google Ads right, you can really build a business in a fast way and in a safe way because you can get that instant exposure. Another reason why I love Google Ads is that you can target consumer searches for when they're ready to buy your product or need your service. Think about it this way. When is the best time to sell someone running shoes? Answer, when their old running shoes are broken. A lot of the times people don't need a plumber until they've got a leaky tap. And this all comes down to a customer has a need, they complete a search, and then they see your ad. So this is all about a consumer searches for your targeted keyword. They click on your ad and are taken to your website to make that purchase or inquire about your services. The example we gave before about a billboard will work if they're driving past right when they're thinking about your product or service. But what we're doing with Google Ads is that we can have those ads to appear and we can pay for those ads to people who are completing those searches right now. And as we start to wrap up this first lesson, I do just want to give you a bit of an overview of how Google Ads looks. And then we're going to go into some of the top terms you need to know. Now, all of this may not make sense right now, but I want you to think about this so that as we go through the remaining lessons, you'll be able to get more information and a greater understanding of how to structure your Google Ads account. So firstly, there's in a Google Ads an account, and you generally have one account per business. And that's where you would also include all of the billing information for all of your campaigns. Then inside of that account, you would have different campaigns. And with your campaigns, this is where you can set different budgets and also set different location targeting. And then you have your ad groups or your asset groups. And these are where you get really practical. So the different keywords, the ads, and the targeting. I want you to think of it like this. If you could think of your Google Ads account like a large department store. So let's just say that, me and my family, I've got a wife and 3 daughters, and we're going shopping. And we go, look, we're just going to go to this large department store because we can get everything that we need. So the department store would be the account. When it comes to the campaigns, I'm going to go, well, for me, I'm going to go straight over to the men's section, and my wife and daughters would go over to the women's section. So the account is the store, the campaigns are the different departments, but then even detailed further from there is there's different sub-departments. So for me, let's just say I want to go and I've got to get some more sports gear. I wouldn't only go to the men's department, I would go to the men's sports department. Whereas over on this side with my wife and daughters, my wife might be having an event, she's got to go buy a new dress. Whereas one of my daughters has got a sporting event coming up, so she's going to the women's sporting department. So you can kind of see here how it's all segmented through. So it's the same store, but we're able to break it down to different campaigns and ad groups. And as I said, I just want you to think about this at a base level because this becomes more important the later as we start to add on extra advanced levels, because what it comes down to is that, especially when it comes to your budgets, you might have a business where you're advertising in Australia and then also in America. What you can do is in the same account, but you can have different campaigns, one targeting your US population, then another one targeting the Australian population. So it allows you to segment and add different budgets and add different location targeting settings dependent on that location. All right, now let's just finish up with the top terms you need to know. Now, because in this lesson, you can go through and download this sheet and this presentation. I'm not going to spend too much time on them. I'm just going to read them out and just think of this. This is like the top dictionary terms of what you need to know so that as we move through this course, you'll have a bit of understanding when I say different things. So as I said before, your campaign, an ad campaign on Google Ads is made up of your ad groups. So they're different subgroups. And this is where you set your budgets and major settings, such as your location targeting. It also helps you to organize your different paid advertising efforts. And that's what I was saying before about the different locations. If you're targeting to Australia and America, you can have them in separate campaigns so you can control the spending across those countries. And you can run multiple campaigns at any time from your Google Ads account. Your ad group, an ad group is your set of keywords and ads within a particular campaign. So you might have a campaign for men's clothing, and then you might have different ad groups for men's t-shirts, another ad group for men's shorts, and then another ad group for men's shoes. Then your keywords, the core of any marketing on Google, they are the words or phrases you choose to target that you would like your ads to show when someone completes a Google search. Remembering relevant ads going back to the user's initial search. Your quality score, this is all about your ad rank. So the metric that is calculated by Google to determine who wins a particular auction. So it's not only based on your budget, it also takes into account the relevancy of your ad copy, your destination URL. So a higher quality score can help you get a better ad placement and lower costs. Once again, quality score, just think of that. That is about keyword relevancy. Impressions, how many times your ad was seen. Clicks, how many times your ad was actually clicked on. And your click-through ratio is the percentage of how many times your ad was seen versus how many times it was clicked on. Your landing page, that's the particular page on your website that you nominate for users to visit when they click on your ad. So the great thing with Google Ads advertising, you don't have to send everyone to your home page. You can send it to different service pages or different product pages. Could be different blogs, whatever you want to do, you can nominate where people go to on your website. Your CPC, or your cost per click, that is the average cost you paid per click. So if you spent $100 and you got 10 clicks, that means that your average CPC would be $10. 10 clicks totaling $100, that's $10 on average per click. A conversion is a desired action that occurs. For example, someone fills out an online form or completes a sale on your website. Your conversion rate, that's calculated by how many clicks you received by the number of conversions. If you got 10 clicks and 1 conversion, your conversion rate would be 10%. Cost per conversion, the average cost per conversion. So if you spent $100 for 10 conversions, your cost conversion would be $10. Your search impression share, that's the impressions you've received on the search network divided by the estimated number of impressions you're eligible to receive. So the way that I like to explain this, if your impression share was 20%, it means that your ad showed 20 times out of every 100 auctions that you were targeted. So 20% means that your ad showed 20 times out of every 100 auctions that your ad was eligible for. So this is a really good metric that you can use to really decide whether you've got some extra budget to spend. And we're really going to be honing in on that much later down in this course when we start to talk about scaling your account. Your conversion value cost, think of this like a ROAS metric, so a return on your ad spend. So this measures your return on investment. It is the conversion value divided by the total cost. So if you spend $100 for $550 worth of sales, your cost per conversion would be 5.50, or some people would explain that as a ROAS of 550%. So it's purely about how much revenue did you get versus the spend that it took. An asset group. Now, an asset group is pretty much the same as an ad group, but it's for Performance Max campaigns. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about with the Performance Max campaign, don't worry, because we will be going through all of the different types of campaigns. But in an asset group, you can add specific audience signals, add assets that are related to the asset group's targeted products or services. Now, when we talk about audience signals, these are search themes around your websites, your audiences, and that you can add to individual ad groups to help with Google's targeting. Once again, this part may be a bit murky, but I just want you to just have an understanding that your asset groups and audience signals are metrics for Performance Max campaigns, which we'll be getting to later in this course. All right, so that's the big recap. So as we said so far, what we did go through, and what I really want you to remember from this first lesson is that the key to success with Google Ads is all about making sure that you've got the most relevant ads, taking people to the relevant landing pages from their initial search. So if you can always keep that as your guiding post, you're going to have success with Google Ads. So that's giving you a good foundation for how Google Ads works. Now we can move on to the rest of the course, and I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson.